Good day, students. Welcome to this JSS 1 Civic Education lesson on the United Nations and Nigeria. The United Nations is the world's most important international organization, a global forum of 193 member states working together on peace, development, human rights, and humanitarian crises. Nigeria has been a member since independence in 1960 and plays a significant role in UN affairs, from Security Council membership to peacekeeping contributions. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define the United Nations and describe its founding, identify the 6 principal organs of the UN, explain the functions of each major UN organ, describe Nigeria's role and contributions to the UN, identify key UN agencies and their work in Nigeria, and explain why the UN matters for ordinary Nigerians. Let us begin. What is the United Nations? The United Nations, UN, is an international organization of sovereign states, established to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, promote international cooperation in solving international problems, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. Founding. The UN was established at the San Francisco Conference, April-June 1945, attended by 50 founding nations. The UN Charter was signed on June 26, 1945 by the 50 founding members, came into force October 24, 1945, celebrated annually as United Nations Day. Established after World War II, 1939 to 1945, a devastating global conflict that killed 70 to 85 million people, to prevent such destruction from ever happening again. Replaced the League of Nations, 1920 to 1946, which had failed to prevent World War II. Membership. Currently 193 member states, virtually every country in the world except Vatican City, Holy See, observer state, and a few disputed territories. Nigeria joined the United Nations on October 7, 1960, just 7 days after independence, October 1, 1960, one of the first African states to join. Headquarters, New York City, USA, main headquarters, with offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. On Charter. The UN Charter is the founding treaty, binding on all member states, the supreme document of international law. Key principles: sovereign equality of all member states, non-interference in internal affairs, peaceful settlement of disputes, prohibition of threat or use of force, except in self-defense or authorized by Security Council. The 6 principal organs of the United Nations. 1. General Assembly, GA. Composition: all 193 member states, each has 1 vote, principle of sovereign equality. Nigeria's vote equals USA's vote. Functions: debates global issues, passes resolutions, not binding but morally authoritative, admits new members, approves the UN budget, elects non-permanent Security Council members, receives reports from other UN organs. Sessions: meets annually in September, general debate, heads of state address, special emergency sessions can be called. 2. Security Council, SC. The most powerful UN organ, primary responsibility for international peace and security. Composition: 15 members, 5 permanent members, P5, USA, UK, France, Russia, China, with permanent seats and veto power, 10 non-permanent members elected by the GA for 2-year terms, 5 elected each year, cannot immediately serve consecutive terms. Veto power: any one of the P5 can block any substantive SC resolution, a single veto kills a resolution. This reflects the post-World War II power structure and is heavily criticized as undemocratic. Africa has no permanent seat on the Security Council, a major grievance. Functions: can authorize the use of force, peacekeeping, enforcement, imposes economic sanctions, establishes peacekeeping missions, refers cases to the ICC. Nigeria and the SC. Nigeria has served as a non-permanent SC member multiple times, 1966 to 67, 1978 to 79, 1994 to 95, 2010 to 11. Nigeria is the African country with the most SC non-permanent member terms. Africa's demand: Africa has campaigned loudly, the Ezewini Consensus of the AU, 2005, for at least 2 permanent seats on the Security Council with veto power, reflecting Africa's 54 countries and 1.4 billion people having no permanent representation. Reform has been blocked by existing P5 members. 3. International Court of Justice, ICJ. The UN's principal judicial organ, settles legal disputes between states. Based in The Hague, Netherlands, 15 judges elected by JSS for 9-year terms. Nigeria at the ICJ. The Bakassi Peninsula case. Nigeria and Cameroon disputed the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula in the Gulf of Guinea. The ICJ ruled in 2002 that Bakassi belonged to Cameroon. Nigeria complied with the judgment and handed over Bakassi in 2008, demonstrating respect for international law, one of Nigeria's foreign policy principles. 4. Secretariat. The UN's administrative body manages day-to-day operations. Headed by the Secretary-General, the UN's Chief Administrative Officer and its public face. Current, 2024 Antonio Guterres of Portugal, since 2017, re-elected 2021 to 2026. Previous notable Secretaries-General, Kofi Annan, Ghana, 1997 to 2006, only sub-Saharan African to hold the position, Nobel Peace Prize 2001. 5. Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. Coordinates the economic, social, and related work of the UN and its specialized agencies. Oversees UN programs on development, environment, health, human rights, and population. 6. Trusteeship Council. Was established to supervise trust territories, former colonies under UN supervision, suspended in 1994 after all trust territories attained self-governance or independence, no longer active. Key on agencies working in Nigeria. UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, Children's Health, Education, Nutrition, major work in Nigeria on polio eradication, supporting out-of-school children in northeast Nigeria. UNHCR, UN Refugee Agency managing Nigeria's over 3 million internally displaced persons, IDPs, from Boko Haram and banditry, supporting refugees from Niger and Cameroon. WHO, World Health Organization combating disease in Nigeria, malaria. Nigeria has the world's highest malaria burden. Polio. Nigeria was certified polio-free in 2020, a massive achievement after decades of effort. COVID-19, Lassa fever. WFP, World Food Programme Emergency Food Assistance in Northeastern Nigeria, Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, Boko Haram affected areas with acute food insecurity. UNDP, United Nations Development Programme Development Planning, Human Development Index, HDI, Governance Support, Climate Adaptation. UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization Education Policy, Osenosogbo Grove, UNESCO World Heritage Site, Suka Cultural Landscape, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Nigeria's role in peacekeeping. Nigeria is one of the top contributors of troops and police to UN peacekeeping missions globally, among the top 10 troop-contributing countries to the UN for decades. Nigerian military and police personnel have served in Sudan/Darfur, UNAMED, South Sudan, UNMISS, Mali, MINUSMA, Lebanon, UNIFIL, DR Congo, MONUSCO, Somalia, AMISOM/OSOM, technically AU-led but with UN mandate, Liberia, UNMIL, Sierra Leone, UNAMSIL, historical. Significance: Nigerian peacekeepers have died in service globally. Peacekeeping is a major expression of Nigeria's foreign policy principle of supporting international peace. 3 examination questions. Question 1. Describe the history and establishment of the United Nations, and state when Nigeria joined. The United Nations was established as a result of the catastrophic destruction of World War II, 1939 to 1945, which killed an estimated 70 to 85 million people. The wartime allies, USA, UK, USSR, and China, began planning a new international organization to replace the failed League of Nations and prevent future world wars. The San Francisco Conference, April-June 1945, was attended by 50 founding nations. The UN Charter was signed on June 26, 1945 and entered into force on October 24, 1945, celebrated as UN Day. The UN was headquartered in New York City. Its founding purposes, UN Charter, Article 1, they maintain international peace and security. B. Develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for equal rights and self-determination. C. Achieve international cooperation in solving economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian problems. D. Be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. Nigeria joined the UN on October 7, 1960, 6 days after independence on October 1, 1960, making Nigeria one of the first African states to join the organization. Question 2. Describe the composition and powers of the UN Security Council, and explain why Africa demands reform. Composition. The UN Security Council, UNSC, has 15 members, 5 permanent members, P5 USA, United Kingdom, France, Russia, USSR at founding, and China, and 10 non-permanent members elected by the General Assembly for 2-year terms. The P5 have veto power. Any single P5 member can block any substantive Security Council resolution by casting a negative vote, regardless of how all other 14 members vote. Powers. The UNSC has primary responsibility for international peace and security. It alone can authorize military force for peacekeeping or enforcement, e.g., authorizing ECOMOG operations in Liberia. It can impose binding economic sanctions, establish peacekeeping missions, refer individuals to the International Criminal Court. Why Africa demands reform. Africa, 54 countries, 1.4 billion people, has no permanent Security Council member. The current P5 reflects the 1945 post-World War II power structure, not today's multipolar world. The 2005 Eswatini Consensus adopted by the African Union demands a minimum of 2 African permanent seats with veto power, arguing that Africa is underrepresented at the highest level of global governance. Major UN agenda items are Darfur, South Sudan, Somalia, DRC, Mali, Ethiopia. Climate change impacts directly affect Africa. African nations' interests are being determined by powers with no permanent stake in Africa's future. Reform is blocked because any P5 member can veto charter amendments. Question 3. Describe the work of 2 UN agencies in Nigeria. A. UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund. UNICEF works extensively in Nigeria, the country with one of the world's largest populations of out-of-school children, 20 million. In northeast Nigeria, where Boko Haram has displaced millions and destroyed schools, UNICEF supports establishment of temporary learning spaces for displaced children, training teachers, distributing school materials, nutrition programs for malnourished children. Acute malnutrition rates in Borno State among the highest in the world. On polio, UNICEF partnered with WHO and the Nigerian government over decades to vaccinate millions of Nigerian children against polio. Nigeria was certified polio-free by the WHO in August 2020, an extraordinary public health milestone achieved through persistent UNICEF/WHO partnership. B. UNHCR, UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Nigeria has over 3 million internally displaced persons, IDPs, people forced from their homes by Boko Haram/ISWAP attacks in the northeast and banditry/Hada. Farmer violence in the northwest and middle belt. UNHCR registers and protects IDPs in camps, coordinates humanitarian assistance, food, water, shelter, medical care, with WFP and UNICEF, advocates for durable solutions, return home, resettlement, or local integration, supports Nigeria's hosting of refugees from Niger, Cameroon, and Chad who have fled violence. 3 common mistakes. Mistake 1, saying the UN was founded in 1945 and Nigeria was a founding member. Nigeria was not a founding member of the UN. Nigeria joined the UN on October 7, 1960, the year of independence. The UN was founded in 1945 by 50 states that signed the UN Charter in San Francisco. Nigeria did not exist as an independent state in 1945, it was still a British colony. Students who say Nigeria was one of the 50 founding members are wrong. This is a clear factual error that examiners penalize. Mistake 2. Confusing the Security Council with the General Assembly. In the General Assembly, all 193 member states have one vote each, equal weight. Decisions are non-binding resolutions. In the Security Council, only 15 members vote, only P5 have veto power. SC resolutions are binding on all UN members. The SC is more powerful and its resolutions have legal force, e.g., when SC imposed sanctions on North Korea or Iraq, all UN members were legally required to comply. The GA can debate and recommend, but cannot force states to act. Mistake 3. Not being able to name the 5 permanent Security Council members. The P5 are USA, United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. These 5 were the major allied powers after World War II. They all have veto power. Africa, Latin America, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia have no permanent representation. Memorize the P5. This is a standard examination question. Summary. United Nations, Global Organization for Peace, Development, Human Rights. Founded, San Francisco Conference, Charter signed June 26, 1945, UN Day October 24. Replaced, League of Nations, failed to prevent World War II. 193 member states. Nigeria joined, October 7, 1960, 7 days after independence. HQ, New York, also Geneva, Vienna, Nairobi. 6 principal organs, General Assembly, all states, 1 vote each, resolutions non-binding, Security Council, 15 members, P5 equals USA/UK/France, Russia, China with veto, binding resolutions, ICJ, disputes between states, BECE ruling 2002, Nigeria handed over to Cameroon 2008, Secretariat, SG Guterres since 2017, Kofi Annan, first African SG, Ghana, 1997 to 2006, Nobel Peace Prize, ECOSOC, Economic/Social Coordination, Trusteeship Council, suspended 1994. Key agencies in Nigeria, UNICEF, Children, Education, Polio-Free 2020, UNHCR, 3M+ IDPs, WHO, Malaria, COVID, Lassa fever, WFP, Northeast Food Crisis, UNDP, Development, HDI, UNESCO, Osenosogbo Heritage Site. Nigeria's UN role, top peacekeeping contributor, SC non-permanent member, most times of any African state, BECE, complied with ICJ ruling. Africa demands 2 permanent SC seats, Ezewini Consensus 2005. For homework, A. When was the UN founded and when did Nigeria join? B. Describe the Security Council and explain why Africa demands reform. C. Describe 2 UN agencies working in Nigeria. Attempt a quiz on your LMS. Nigeria's voice matters at the United Nations. Stay informed and engaged. Visit Litech Academy at academy.litech.com.ng. Until next time.